Let's just try twisting. Just let it build up slowly. Mindful, really feeling the muscles. Feel the dantian at the base of this turning. So when we meditate, our hands and our feet are with the dantian. It's like all roads lead back to the dantian. And here we want to feel the movement coming up from there. So as you twist to the maximum, just feel the agonist and the antagonist fighting. And then as we turn the other way, we want to keep an element of that. There's a sense that it's difficult all the way. There's no opportunity to let the mind wander. Okay, so let's just try tipping it now. Same idea. It's easier to feel the two sets of muscles on this one. Let's just tip forwards. So just twist towards one of the legs and then try and get it agonist and antagonist. So here the agonist would be the belly muscles. So my belly muscles are contracting to pull me down. It's not just gravity that I'm releasing to, I'm pulling the belly muscles and my back is being stretched. And then I kick the back in, bring myself back up. And now just pulling and pushing the stick a few times. So the hands pulling away from each other. You can get them twisting against each other as well. Trying to relax the shoulders and the neck down into it. Then just reversing it, so pushing the hands towards each other. And then when we reverse it back into a pull, just try and get it so that it doesn't break. It's difficult. So you keep the pressure on, and so you're pulling and pushing at the same time, really, and then you just release the push. So to make that smooth transition, you need to have both actions going at the same time. And then the same thing here, I'm pulling, but I'm sort of pushing at the same time, and then I just release the pull. And then one more pulling. Feel the dantian at the base of it all. It's like the source of the fountain, or the well, the deep well, the pit. And then back into a push. Let's just try, before we put it down, let's just try the one where we sort of dislocate the shoulders. So right at the ends of the stick, otherwise you'll hurt yourself. And then just over the head and back. Just trying to keep the arms straight. And as it loosens up, you can just shorten the distance between the hands a little, just to keep it difficult. So just coming back to the Dan Chen, for me, one of the miracles of seated meditation is just the fact that the hands and the feet are very much with your Dan Chen. I was browsing the dictionary this morning and came across a lovely quote. His passions and faith run soul deep. This sense that the Dan Chen is the seat of your soul. So the spirit is more the heart and the head, but your depth, the deep soul, is the Dan Chen. And it has its own ecosystem. You've got your gut biome down there. So gut feelings, as opposed to heart feelings or head thoughts. So each center has its own population, if you like, its own ecosystem. So Dantian as seat of the soul, but also seat of the unconscious. So all those deep feelings that are barely registrable. Don't really see the light of day. They're dark. Let's stand up. Moving from leg to leg, slowly, mindfully. feeling the three phases in the action of the leg. So here my left leg is straightening in order to push me completely into this foot. And then it starts bending to move me. And then as the weight goes into it, it supports. And that allows this leg to become active. So this leg straightens and then bends and then supports. Straight, bend, support. So the leg can only really be active if the other leg is passive. Straining the leg is actually quite difficult. Let's breathe. The lungs are breathing, but it's really the dantian. As you pull the belly in and bring the hands in, we're trying to go down at the same time. So almost like we're trying to get into that meditation state where the feet are with the dantian and the hands are with the dantian. And then you can expand it. We don't want the legs to be a barrier between us and the ground, between the dantian and the ground, which it will tend to be. And this is a great exercise for just getting the legs to bring you down to the ground. You can go down quite low here because you know you're going to come up in a sec. Dantian is sucking my hands into it, but it's also sucking my feet up, and that's bringing me down. And then let's just bring the feet up. The same action really, but on a smaller scale and just getting more. So you can really get the belly pulling in here and then squeezing out. So just feeling the belly and the back, getting them working together. So the belly's pulling, which is stretching the back, and then the back pulls, stretching the belly. I feel the antagonist. So here I'm leaning back, so my back muscles are tightening, and these muscles are being stretched. Now, when I start pulling back with the belly, there's a sense I need to actively stretch them even more in order to start them pulling back in. And this is what joins the two phases together. So I'm here, it seems like the maximum, but then I really make an effort and I open it even more, and then I pull back. And now it seems I can't go any further, but I just pull it in even more to stretch the back to its absolute maximum, then I let the back pull in. So each muscle behaves like a mouth that has to open really, really wide to fit the food in. So this is my mouth opening. These muscles are really expanding, and then they can close and contain. And then my back is really expanding, so I expand it even more. And then I pull it back. Let's try this Qigong, which we've been doing. Feeling the body like a tree. The ground is here, so my legs are my roots that extend into the ground. And then here it's like my branches and leaves are reaching up and gathering this energy down the spine. So my spine, my trunk, my bole, my torso, with the roots beneath it and the branches reaching out above it. And of course, each of those systems, the crown and the roots, has its own ecosystem as well. Feel it channeling strongly down the spine and then branching at the sacrum down each leg. And then feel your horns. Like you've got the horns of an ibex. Or you can think of antlers, you know, the stag. Channeling this energy down. It sort of bypasses the brain and just comes straight into the the occiput and the spine. And then just start it wriggling a little bit. The waist wants to turn and get these things going alternately. Good. And then just back to riding horse. Let's try this one. Breathing from the ground, up the legs into the dantian, and then back down. Feel the two phases going down into the ground and coming up out of the ground. Breathing in and breathing out. You do the same thing with the lungs, then it's the reverse breathing. If I breathe in through my nose as I go down here, then everything's meeting in the dantian, and then everything flows back out in the dantian. So a mind that is just with your own bodily processes rather than with your sense impressions. So my mind is with my breathing primarily. We know how difficult it is to just sit there and just be with your breathing. The mind gets distracted by its own thoughts so readily. But it's only really when you're with these physical processes that you're really lodged in your being and really present in your body in the space that you're occupying. As soon as there's a train of thought, then that's what you're on really. You're on a train, you're on this line. Your being has become linear, become one-dimensional. So when we're sitting, we're just a point really, we're zero-dimensional. But because of that stillness, we can open out to everything. We can become three-dimensional. When you're on a train track, you're sort of blinkered. And again, it's the same thing. Your passions and your faith are soul deep. They all stem from here, from the well, the primal well. Okay, now just feeling the shoulders with the hips. So there's two shoulders and there's two hips. So this one has to just settle down into here. This has to settle down into here. And then I simply want to turn, but really feel the action of my legs, my 2 feet on the ground. Both of them are pushing in order to turn me round to the corner. And when I'm here, I now have a front foot and I have a back foot. Now I just want to feel that, and then I relax really, and that will swing me back to riding horse. And then I push my feet and turn the other way. So now my right foot is front, my left foot is back. Just want to keep it relaxing from the sacroiliacs, so that my weight is still being channeled down the legs as the legs are pushing me around. And now this is just like a relaxation. And then again. So I have to keep the sacroiliacs open. I don't want my physical effort, my work, to close me off. It's a bit like the train of thought. When you're thinking to yourself, you tend not to notice what's going on around you. It's the same with any physical action. It tends to bring us into ourselves, and then we lose the outside world. That's what we don't want. So here, this is as much a relaxation. So I'm relaxing into the legs so that the legs have the ground to push me around. And then I just relax. This is really like the legs pulling together, but relaxedly, because they've stretched to push apart. Here my two legs are pushing apart. And then back to the front. Feel the hips and just, are you being honest with yourself? Are your shoulders still with your hips, or have you twisted the shoulders around a little bit more? It's actually really difficult. Open-ended, infinite. Infinite just means without end, endless. Doesn't mean enormously big, just means there's no end. So this is what we want here. My channels are open. The foot is open. The foot is exchanging with the ground. It's open here. My hip is exchanging with my sacrum. Everything's open. And we don't like it. The mind doesn't like it. The mind wants to close things off so that it can better understand a more limited system. When I try to keep everything open, the mind tends not to behave very well. I have to rely much more on my instincts, on my gut, than on my head. And now let's just turn to the corner. And now, like we're doing the backwards and forwards exercise, because we have effectively bow and arrow to this corner. So I can just go forwards and then back. It's difficult because the front foot is facing here, but we get used to it. Bring it back to the front. And then just try a bit the other way. So just turning to this corner. And just back and forth a few times. Feeling the 3 phases in the leg again. The leg straightens. That's a bit like opening the mouth really wide, and then it bends, and that starts it closing. And then I settle into it and it supports. So it really straightens. Yeah, so it has to straighten first, otherwise there's not much power in the bending. So I really straighten this leg, and then I bend it to move me back, and then I can settle into the leg for it to support me so the other one can straighten. And now let's just try a bit of this one. So the 2 circles, 2 yielding circles, I'm reaching out and guiding someone's arm in and past me. And just feel the legs again. So to extend this hand, I'm also extending this leg. So I'm straightening this leg. That's pushing me this way to send the hand forwards. So what I want to make sure is that I start the circle coming back by bending this leg and sucking myself into it. So what I don't want to do is do this. I don't want to settle into this foot in order to yield. I reach forwards and instantly I'm turning but coming into this leg. Then it has power. It's like you're bringing the other person's energy into your supporting leg, and that lends the other hand the possibility of a counter. So I'm coming into that leg. Remember that wonderful phrase of John's? The feast is forwards. The sense that you're always moving forwards. So I'm always moving into the direction I'm turning towards. Just makes life difficult because you're moving into the unknown all the time rather than hedging your bets and staying back, making sure I see it and understand it before I come into it. It's my hunger for the new, for the unknown that drives me. Not a desire to understand. Good. Let's just try this one on its own. And I'm using my left hand, so it's a clockwise circle. And then I want to do the same clockwise circle, but with the other hand. So I have to go around its circle the other way. So now this. So here there's a sense that I'm yielding to the ground rather than the other person. So the hand goes out and then reaches under the ground, comes up my leg, and then can come out of the dantian. And then just allow it to become the figure of eight, because this circle going the other way is effectively just the bottom of the figure of eight. And the circle going the right way, the way we're used to, is the top of the figure of eight. And in a way, the more important part is the bottom part, because that's the part that gets us down and gets us connected to the ground. And now let's try this hand. So let's just go straight into it. So the figure of eight. So this is the top circle reaching out, but gathering the person in, then going down under my foot and up. Getting them both together. feel the two minds. So part of my mind is here with the hand that's coming up. That's the sort of place I'm looking to. But another part of my mind is down here, extending this leg, reaching in order to bend. So it's not just simply doing this, getting them alternating, which tends to be us being with the top circle all the time. I want to give at least equal emphasis, if not more, to the bottom circle. So this part of my mind that even though I'm turning this way, I'm sort of keeping like a weather eye here, almost like I'm looking at out the corner of my eye a little bit. So I don't lose the ground. And to help the mind, we just make sure we keep the legs working. So this leg is really straightening and then bending, and then this one can straighten and bend. So it's just staying with part of your mind in the activity in the leg. Yeah, looks great. So when you see people doing it, it almost looks like they've got eyes in the back of their head, like they're just much more aware of their whole body, their whole being, upper and lower body. Now let's just bring it up. And now just this one, the heels. I sink into a heel and the other heel can come up. So it's just really soft and gentle, like the suckling kitten that's massaging around the mother's teat to help the milk flow. And that's really what we're doing. We're massaging the ground with our feet to help the energy flow, particularly to open the channel, to open the ends so that I can get into the ground and so that energy from the ground can come up into me. The ground is no longer simply a hard surface upon which you purchase. It's a source of energy and a sink of energy. So if I work softly, then slowly, it will just open up, and then the needle of my heel can then go down. So there's part of my mind that's just with it, just with this, gently going from side to side without a care in the world. But another part of me is really focusing in on that heel so that I can get some penetration. I can lower down into the ground. So this is the closest I've ever got to actually making a model, a visualization of the root. Something that really does come out of you like a root of a plant and burrows into the ground. Very much dependent upon my single-weightedness, the willingness of my two sides to do opposite things. And for that, I need real looseness here in the hips, because if this is just the block, then everything will want to do the same thing. And it's just the same as the other exercise we've just done, the figure of eight exercise, really. This root is going down as this one comes up. So as I do the top of the figure of eight, with one hand, the other hand does the bottom of the other figure of eight. It feels like the body wants to separate into as many parts as possible, so that these movements can really be energetic flows rippling through this multifaceted medium. So the opposite of blockish. But the mind that goes down and makes the root is the mind that's turning away. Yeah, so it's here, I'm turning this way. It's just like kicking. If I was going to kick, I'd kick with this foot, but this foot would have to have my root and be on the ground. But I'm not looking at it, I'm looking in the direction I'm kicking. But my mind is very much with my root. My mind has to be down there underneath the foot. Because the slightest opportunity will come up. So it should look sexy and seductive. You've got all these ripples rippling through the body. That's in a sense what seductiveness is, isn't it? You're making an offer, but at the same time, you're retreating. It's the same thing here. I'm presenting something, but at the same time, I'm really going back into my own root. So this endless double message that's oscillating between the two sides all the time. Back to the Dantian, back to the breathing, back to meditation. His passions and faith run soul deep. So this sense that you're just reeling yourself in to the richness of your Dantian. It's a dark richness, so you can't see it. There's nothing to sense there. That's what we're trying to get away from, is sense impressions. Anything that's going to disturb the mind. Let's see if I can remember the whole quote. So his passions and faith run soul deep. His gentle wit is always self-effacing and never insulting. His call to service and morality is both compelling and something else. Irresistible. Both compelling and irresistible. Imagine if that was on your tombstone. And then let's just bring it. John used to talk about a call to arms. A bit like here at the moment, you know, anyone of the age is liable to be called up with the army. Everywhere you go now, just full of soldiers. So this sense that you can be called upon to fight, to actively engage your spirit in the real world. But that sense of it being a call to service rather than a call to arms. There's always this call for you to provide service, not just to others, but just to the moment that you're in. So by listening, you're serving by listening. And you can't listen if you're busy in your head.